Hello, I am Kurt Schnackenberg, founder and chief strategist of ADBM Agency and an EO Chicago member since roughly 2015. What this is a walkthrough of an Airtable template that my team has created for chapter management. Bit of a quick narrative on this. The reason that I started building this, or had my team construct it, was out of necessity. I came in as forum chair and realized that we had divided information. So membership had a Google Drive, forum had a Google Drive, engagement had a Google Drive. We all had different piled information that was not talking to each other. And the quality of the information from year to year, and then the quality of what we could do with that information, was heavily reliant on the person who sat in the chair that year. There was not a ton of consistency. And with full board turnover roughly every year, 2 years, depending on how the chapter's managed, it did not seem like the best way to run what is becoming a pretty large organization that provides a profound value to its members. And so this template was constructed to provide consistent value at a higher level than we have now, or have prior to this when we were using, different Google Drives. And it means for some continuity in the chapter, and again at that higher level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through this, and this is constantly evolving. So we're constantly adding in functions, changing things, and so this is current as of today, March 2nd, 2024. I am sure there will be various views and additions, probably even by the end of this coming week. Other disclaimer is that this data that we're going to look at here is sort of throwaway, just placeholder information. This is not EO Chicago's data. And in as much, there's a lot that doesn't have enough data to fully illustrate the power of what's going to come from it. And so we've only got 20 members in here. We've only got a couple events. It is not, or one event maybe even, but it is not very strong in terms of the back-end data that is visible here. It obviously is set up to accommodate it, but it's not there yet in terms of just dummy data for demoing. All right, so let's run through. We start with chapter dashboards. Starting at the top here, we have chapter wide. This shows we have 4 prospects, 20 current members, and we have what we call our engagement score. So we took various attributes. Are you in a forum? Are you a moderator? Are you on a committee? Are you on an executive board? Do you have a mentor? Is your SLP registered? Do you have key executive registered? Do you have children registered in the program? Do you have, or how many events have you attended? Things of that nature. We've assigned different values, and I'll show where those values can be adjusted. And then it looks at membership and assigns engagement score. So as we approach renewal, outside of this person's really upset right now because we know of something that may or may not have happened, or this person's in love with the organization because of something that happened, we have a data-based sort of numeric value that we can look at and say, well, this person, what happened to them? We haven't, they haven't really done anything in 12 months. Obviously they're at risk. So that's the engagement score here. This is chapter wide. So this is EO, EOA, SLP, everything. As we go down, we have just EO. So we have 2 prospects, 11 current. Minimum engagement score 0. Max is 25. Median is 6. So when we come in here to look at the members, we'll see it's ranked by engagement score. And then it shows events attended in the last 12 months, their email, and then their forum or accountability group involvement status. So are they in one? Have they opted out? Are they looking to be placed? And are we uncertain? When we open this up, we can view a record. And actually, at the time this with data, test dummy data was being built out, my son was studying presidents in school. So we've got a number of past presidents in here. So we have their headshot, name, first, last, email, primary, secondary, cell phone, LinkedIn profile. We then go down to member type. So what is their type? Are they current? How long have they been in? When are their join dates? Do they want to be an AG coach? Engagement scores. This is that scoring section. This will also list out events that they have attended. Forum accountability group. So what is their involvement in a forum right now? And there's a comment section. Events. They have drink restrictions, dietary restrictions. We could also put like time of day. If there are people who can't do events at night or in the morning, we can track that as well. Their EO leadership, what current board seats are they in? What are they under consideration for? What are their past seats? Mentorship, information about their company, the industry, when it was founded, full-time headcount, full-time employee headcount, annual revenue, associated members, address, their personal information. I won't go through each bucket or each specific field, but their prospecting data, so we can track them coming through. Then we have personalized links. So this is if this member wants to add a child, they have to follow this link. If they want to add a worksheet, click this link. If they want to add an SLP, a key exec, they want to add a worksheet or an SLP, the annual revenue verification links, their annual data update. So once a year, our process is to send it out and say, hey, is this still your address? Is this still your SLP? God forbid it changes, but is this still your child? And then forum placement worksheet, where we ask questions like, how much do you want to spend on retreat? How often do you go on retreat? What time of day do you like to meet? What geography, like where physically do you like to meet? To make placement easier. Then this module is still being built out, but onboarding. So onboarding assignment steps and who they go to as members join. Their forum placement that I mentioned earlier, and then their departure. If they leave, why'd they leave? Who do you talk to? What happened? So we have our EO section, our EOA section, our SLP section, SAP section, key executive, children. We then have a bench of leadership that looks at our executive. We have an executive board and our non-executive committees and says who's current, incoming, under consideration, past. This all gets rolled into their engagement scores, but it gives us an idea of how are we in good shape going into next year. There's also a link to our organization chart that we can then fill and share this with prospective members or new people and say, hey, look, this is how the organization works, right? This is how it's set up and who sort of sits under different seats. Pie charts. So this is just a dashboard that goes through and say, by members, what's the member type, life cycle, their tenure, how many events they've attended. Again, I've only got one event in here, so that's why. Engagement scores, forum status, membership sources, how people came to us, their business stats, so industry, full-time employee headcount, revenue range, gender. And the beauty of building this on Airtable is that we can customize this. Any record we have, we could add more we could add more charts, we could see, track more data. Events history. This is where we track, number of events per quarter, events per quarter, right? And we can add in here other things to view, like how much did we spend on an event, average attendance per quarter. So that's what this is. This top one is events by quarter. This bottom was event attendees. We then have our membership section. Again, this is a prospecting bucket. So we can look at our different prospects and move them through the process. This is what Chicago has set up, but we could certainly easily customize the prospect status for different chapters. And then we have automations tied to it. So right now we have a public link that someone can click, fill out a form to apply. And we ask them, is your revenue under 250, 250 to $1 million, or over $1 million? And based on their answer, we assign them to the right member type. And then whoever the current membership chair, whether it be accelerator or general EO, is notified, hey, this person submitted an application. It's a lot of automated messaging. So we then have our long listed directory, which we can filter by type. To update in the EO hub, so if someone's updated their information, we need to go into the EO specific hub platform to update member info, we can, and then we just have a specific member directory. The reason this sits here is that a lot of the automations, like if I forward you a prospect as a new member, it's going to link to this space with their record pulled up. We then have forums where this goes through and lists out how many forums we have, the average size. You can open it and you can see headshots of the members and information on all the members, the newest member, the average EO tenure of the member, the most tenured person, their copy of their constitution, where they like to meet for placement, suggested members, members that are a no, that won't work. So we have form directory, and then we have SLP, again, key executive, SAP. This is the placement worksheet. So these are forums looking for members, and these are members that are either looking to be placed or we're uncertain about. So this is why I built the platform in the first place, was for my ability to come in here and quickly determine where to assign people. Accountability groups, similar concept, but we don't have a separate placement. It's just directory. And so we list out the groups. We list out members looking to be placed, and then we list out here coaches on deck. So if we have more EOA coaches ready for forming a new group, they would be listed down here. So we could create a group, assign them to it, and assign members. I'm going to skip over events and do that one last because that's pretty robust. So we have mentorship, current mentor pairings, YPO mentors, and then EO members looking for a mentor. Again, similar to the forum placement, so we can place people. Finance. This is a neat one. This is tied heavily to events, but what happens is you enter a budget for a committee. It tracks what's been spent for that committee. Then it tracks what we've allocated but not yet spent, so it's been earmarked for it, and then tells us how much we have left to spend in the year. And so it's all split out by committee, and those different committees can be changed. I know different chapters run different committees. We have SAP contract info, so current contracts, right? Who are we working with? What's the value? We can open up and view the contract record. We can make comments on it. So I could say, hey, Kurt, I have a question on this, right? And I could send a question and comment in here. You can do this on all the records, on members, on anything. We can comment and converse internally on it. Annual trends of total. And again, I only have one SAP contract in here, but if you had multiple, we'd have how much money, the average dollar amount, the total number. And then again, if you don't want to open it up, if instead you want to come down here, you could come down and open it up here. Expense entry. This is a form to log expenses, tie them to an event, tie them to a committee that roll up to that, to those budget numbers. We then have to process. So this tells chapter staff, this needs to be entered in QuickBooks. This needs to be paid or reimbursed to a member. And sorry, I skipped over it. There's a public form for expense entry as well that any member in the chapter can enter. Put in what needs to be paid for, rolls out to them. Events in pass to close out. So like this one, right? Let's say this is closed and we end up spending nothing. I want to release the $65,000. So if I come here and change this to closed, it releases that $65,000 back into the budget. And then we have a list of event no-show and people to fine. You have an expense lookup. Again, this is generally here so that when we have automations notifying chapter manager, hey, this member has submitted a receipt that needs to be reimbursed, there's a link that they just click in the email that goes straight to this. And just to be clear, all those automations are set up to go to the person filling the role, not the email. So Kurt as forum chair, it goes to my email, but it's actually set up to email whoever the current forum chair is, not for me. So it minimizes the work needed during board turnover. We then have our meeting section. So we run our meetings in a pretty structured format that's fairly familiar to a lot of EO members. So I'll go into like an executive board. So you'd select the committee. You would select the meeting. We have a segue or icebreaker. We have headlines, scorecard. Scorecards vary dramatically by chapter. Some don't want to run it that I've talked to. And so those are customized by chapter. We have open to-dos, where you can select the meeting and say it was done. You can open it up. You can put notes. You can add attachments. You can have a chat on it. Then these are to-dos that were assigned during that meeting. Then we have rocks that look at each committee member and gives their rocks. These rocks will also cascade down to the committee meeting as well. We then have our IDSs, open, close this meeting. So you would be able to come back and see what IDS issues did we solve on February 15th, whatever it is. And then you can end with a ranking. We have a calendar in here that shows when the different meetings are. Then we have an IDS lookup. So again, these are records for IDS and to-dos and rocks. The beauty of this is, let's say 5 years from now, the next board comes in and they're like, we are thinking of switching from incoming class admissions, like cohorts once a quarter, to we're just going to take members on a rolling basis. So they could come in here and search under IDS and say rolling, right? And there's nothing in here. But if we had logged something 5 years ago on rolling membership when we thought about changing over, we can go in here and pull up our notes and say, oh, this is why we decided not to do it, or we decided to do it. There's a continuity of knowledge. That knowledge doesn't die or leave when you have board turnover. So that happens for IDS, to-dos, and rocks. And then in our library here, we have different things. So we have this screen you're looking at is a function wish list. So what happens is my team, someone comes in and says, I want this function. I want the ability, and this is one we're working on. So at the end of a meeting, I want to be able to put in cascading messages, and then I want to click a box or checkbox that sends those cascading messages to all current moderators and asks the moderators to share it with their forum. Right? So when you want functions like that, you would come in here and add them under new, and then my team filters them, tackles them, and the beauty of this is as more chapters use it, what we will be doing is sharing our best practices and things that get built out. So if chapter A wants this function and we build it for them, the intention is to share that with other chapters and say, hey, here's a really cool thing that this other chapter wanted, right? And they're like, oh, we want it too, or oh, that doesn't work for our process. And so there's this community effect, right, built on the EO trust and respect values, right, where and a thirst for learning, where we all are contributing to creating a better entity for ourselves. So that's the function wish list. Then there's SOPs. So if your chapter wants to track their SOPs, all right, so let's say somebody's coming in as the new forum chair, right? There should be some in here, some SOPs that are relevant to that forum chair seat. Engagement values, which I mentioned earlier, where we assign values, and this is how we calculate the engagement score. I imagine most chapters are going to run differently. This is a way for us to do that, to customize it by chapter. We have our forms and public views. So these are things, Airtable is a licensed platform. To see where you are, what I'm in right now, you need to buy an Airtable license. It is not something that my team charges, right, to use the template. It is directly to Airtable to pay for a license. But once you're in, you're able to do all these. Others are only going to really have access to this. So what we built out is a prospect intake form. We have a calendar of events. So someone could go to the calendar, click on a link, and then there's an RSVP link. So whether you use Eventbrite or the EO Hub or whatever tool for managing RSVP, someone could click that, right? And it will allow them to RSVP. This is a mobile-friendly upcoming events list. So one of the biggest complaints in our chapter, and I've heard from others, is that, my membership did not know about events. And we can email and text and do whatever we want as often as we want, and we still hear that message of, well, I didn't know about this. Okay, so what this is a dynamic live list of upcoming events. And if you want to set up notifications to go to your members of, hey, when an event's added, you can be notified through it, that works too. But this is just an open list. We then have, and I'll get to this when we talk about events, is ideas only. If someone wants to contribute an event idea or someone wants to request an event on a date and wants to actually do it. There are two forms. I'll get to that as I hit events. We then have a list in our library of vendors. So you can search by type. Again, this is placeholder, so there's not much in here. But we have different filters, right, of vendors that we've used. And you could open it up and it shows time used. When's the last time we used them? Website, contact phone. And then we're going to create ranking scores as well that come in here and show everything. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, right? A year or two into this, you should have some real powerful and dynamic information. Event ideas. So these are ideas, right, that of events that have been had or concepts or whatever shared, so that we can come back in here and again, look, okay, I'm thinking of having an event that is for couples, right? Okay, you can see events that either the ideas have been brought up before or they've been completed, and we will have ranking scores that roll up from attendees and say, okay, we had this event, it was really expensive and it was ranked really low. Or we had this event, it was super cheap and ranked really high. And it looks at the amount calculated by how many people attended, right? So we spent $100,000, but we had 20,000 people show up and it was ranked super high. So you can have that sort of data flow through on event ideas. And again, the same thing on the vendors. Okay. Let's look at events. This is a pretty robust section. So here's the process that Chicago follows. A member, whether they be a member of a committee or not, submits an event request. That through a public forum. That then hits right here. This is the new concept status. This is the screen where whomever is responsible, which is in our case is the executive director, for managing the chapter calendar and budget comes in and says, great, you asked for an event, and let me open up an event request form here. So they can say, great, you asked for an event tomorrow that's going to cost $100,000. Can't happen. We got to save some money, and we need more time to plan. So what would happen is you would put in your name, right? So let me put mine in. I would come up with the title, testing. I would come up with a description, right? What's the event? The committee that I want it on. So let's do forum. I would say when in the day, right? So check as many as you want. So this is going to be a lunch through happy hour event, and I want it to be about 6 hours. Venues, this is free text, right? If I can say at my house, and then who's invited, right? So we have different sections of different types of members or contacts that we engage with. How many people do we want to invite? So let's say 50. I don't have that big of a house. Let's go down to 10, and I want $5,000 for it, right? I can have a cost breakdown of what I'm going to spend the $5,000 for, and why am I having this event? Because I want to. And then is there a speaker facilitator? We need to make sure this day works for sure. So let's say I'm going to say Kelly, my wife, my partner, and then I will say Kelly at, all right, and then her phone number. And then I would click some and go back real quick. On the date, I didn't fill this one in. When I select the date, I'm going to select next Friday. It pops up 2 alternative dates. So if next Friday doesn't work, how about the Friday after? How about the Friday after that? It then comes in here. Our chapter manager or director can open up the event link and review it. And they will see at the top, it will begin with what I submitted. Okay. And then it'll work itself down to what they need to do. So concept, date hold, approved, completed, declined. If they put date hold, it actually puts a hold on all 3 of those dates. So if I go back to my calendar, it'll show in green events that are approved, and in yellow date hold events. So we can look at the calendar and be like, hey, we've got a lot of stuff someone's trying to book this week or this month. Maybe we need to shift it. We can allocate a budget. So they asked for 5. I'm only going to give Kurt 1,000. I can put start and end time, reason for decline if applicable, the type of the event. You know, they sort of fill out a little bit more information. Then it gets notified to whoever requested it. Yes, your event was approved or your event was declined. And then we start implementing it by chapter manager. So we can add vendors, planning notes, attachments, and SAP date share, which is something that Chicago does. We can put our Marcom planning in here. Depending on what you use, platform you use for Marcom, we can customize bridges and sync between them. We then have finances, expenses, and attendees, no-shows. We are working on building cascading to-dos. So when an event is approved, it creates a list of to-dos. Chicago uses it. Currently, in this template, we are making a little more agile so that others can change how they want it to be. We then also have day of reports. So this is for the person who's boots on the ground on that specific event. Here's what you need to know. So contacts, who's coming, things of that nature. And then there's a check-in attendees window. So we can pick a date, right? And whoever has RSVP'd for it, we can check them in or not. And then if they don't show up, if they texted us or called us, we can give a reason for what their no-show reason was. And that's the events module. So as of it currently stands, this is the totality of the platform. What isn't this good for? Why is this not great? What are the downsides to this that we've encountered? One is that this, if everybody uses separate email, if each committee uses their own email address, right? This is not synced. This is not like a HubSpot CRM where I can see all the emails I sent to a prospect, unless you use an email like, I don't know, membership at EO, whatever your chapter is, .org, and then you tie them in. Then there's the ability to sync to emails and see what communication has happened. But for the most part, it's generally not there. The Marcom, the outgoing emails and messaging from this don't look pretty. They can be made to look pretty, but it needs to be written. It needs to be coded in. There is not a drag and drop simple way to do it. Also, everybody, as I mentioned earlier, who works in this interface needs to be licensed. And so generally, it is cost prohibitive to license the entire chapter. you would most likely license your executive committee members, maybe some of your other committee members if need be, and then your staff. And that's what we essentially have done in Chicago. So there's the fee structure of going to Airtable on it. The real highlight of this, the agility and ability to quickly and reasonably inexpensively customize by chapter. I'm more than happy to provide demos of walking through this with a specific chapter if you want to look at it. Part of my team's onboarding process includes configuring and setting it up for your chapter, and then also importing your data. So if you have those Google Sheets by different committees, it can be laborious, but our intent, what we try to do is take all that information and enter in much of it in here as we can, so that you're starting from a place of, not just completely empty data. Well, thank you. I apologize for the length of this, but I wanted to go through the totality of the platform and what is here. And I encourage any questions or comments, sections for improvement, or if you want to try it out for your chapter, we are here for you. Thanks a lot.